Hello and welcome to this special edition of KOCT's North County Roundtable. My name's Kent Davy. I am here at the KOCT soundstage in Oceanside, California, and I'm honored to moderate a conversation between the 5 mayors of the Highway 78 corridor. Oceanside Mayor Esther Sanchez, Carlsbad Mayor Keith Blackburn, Vista Mayor John Franklin, San Marcos Mayor Rebecca Jones, and Escondido Mayor Dane White. Welcome all. Economic development brings new jobs that in turn drives housing needs, transportation, workforce development, infrastructure demands, and public safety, the latter particularly with the federal push on deportations. The 78 corridor cities are home to more than 600,000 people. Employers offer more than 300,000 jobs. Household median income ranges from about $90,000 to $100,000 a family. I'd like to start this conversation beginning to my left with Mayor Sanchez and moving around clockwise with just a simple question. What's the city's number one priority for the first year or so?
Our number one priority has been addressing homelessness. And in the November of 2024, the biggest issue was the homelessness. And what we did was we had a workshop and we just decided we've got to do this. We've got to take care of our homeless, especially since most of them are from Oceanside.
You guys have done, and all these cities have done a remarkable job. What do you think?
Well, I agree with Esther, but you can't expect our small cities in the North County to fix the homeless problem. We do what we can, but homelessness is transient. So if we work hard to find homes, treatment for people who need some help getting off the streets, as soon as we help them, they're replaced with some others. Mm-hmm. So we've got to think a little bit more long term. But you asked what's the biggest concern? I've always been asked.
Number one priority.
My number one priority is money. And I know that sounds bad, that people say money doesn't buy happiness. But when it comes to go around. But when it comes to city government, everything our residents want, whether it's police, fire, roads, parks, all comes with a price tag. Yeah. So when people ask me, what do I lose sleep over at night? It's our money.
Okay, John?
Keith, that's a great point. When you spend less than you take in, you can do a lot of great things. When you spend into deficits, you have to cut essential services. For us in Vista, housing and affordability, which is kind of combined with homelessness, we've put a great deal of energy into solving the homeless problem. Mm-hmm. And what I've said continuously for the last 7 years is we've led with compassion and services on the right hand, but we've also got a story we're really proud to tell about the necessity for enforcement. It doesn't work to just offer services. We've led with policing, particularly related to drug enforcement. And when we enforce the drug laws, when we go after people who are selling drugs in the encampments and to people living in the encampments disappear. Mm-hmm. It's vital that we enforce our laws.
Rebecca.
Well, the biggest priority in San Marcos, we have actually one of the lowest homeless counts in the region. For us, it's really getting our Scripps Hospital approved and getting that moving along. It's 1,700 new high-paying jobs. We want to make sure we get that across the finish line because obviously we need to keep people employed, and building that right there next to North City where we've actually got the homes actually being built too. So with the opening of 222 North City Drive, 460 units, market rate. It is geared more toward the university for their population and, well, I'm talking about actually their employees, of course, sure. But also toward the folks that will be working at the Scripps Hospital.
Okay. Dane? Escondido.
Homelessness.
Okay.
Yep, and I'm proud to say Escondido saw the biggest decrease this past year, and that's what I'm hoping for this year with some of the things that we've implemented.
Now that count won't be out until, it was done last month, but it won't be out till probably June, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and last year it was even later than that, so.
Yeah. Let me turn around and ask, starting with you, Dane, the question of, as you look, say, over the next 3 to 5 years or so, what's the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity for the city of Escondido?
Traffic and pedestrian safety is going to be the area that has the most opportunity for improvement. And kind of like they were saying about money, if you don't have money, it's almost impossible to fix some of these things. But now that Escondido does have additional revenue coming in, this is the priority that's being addressed.
Rebecca?
Yeah, definitely transportation, moving people around the city. So we actually have the pilot project that just started recently with the North County Transit Plus, NCTD Plus. That's moving people around. Unlike the other cities, we have about 40,000 students that need to move around that are getting the higher education in San Marcos. So that really does present a challenge. But I would have to say it's an opportunity. But I would say our greatest challenge in all of our cities, and I think we could probably agree on this, and that is local control. So as everything is affected by it, local control has really become something that we struggle with every single day.
Okay, quickly, somebody define local control for me.
The state has taken control by passing probably 70 or 80 housing bills in the last couple of years alone that take away what we get to have our cities look like and build at.
And they're radical on top of that.
Absolutely, yep.
Let me give you a good example. We have a growth management plan, and it's very simple, and it was voted on by our residents. And it says, we won't grow faster than our infrastructure can handle. Kind of makes sense. State of California came in and said, we don't care. You will build these additional homes. We don't care if your traffic can handle it. We don't care if your water supply can handle it. Figure it out. That's very frustrating. I think all 5 of us say this is very frustrating to our individual cities.
And just to add to that, the residents of North County did not elect those who are born here or moved here. And I wasn't lucky enough to be born here, so I made this my home. But I chose a suburban, semi-rural community. And what we're seeing is the Los Angelesification of our part of North County. We don't want to become Los Angeles. We got to build enough housing for our children to live in. We've got to make more housing supply for affordability, but we don't want massive increases in density. We certainly don't want high-rise, high-density, and super unaffordable rental prices.
Can I explain what we're frustrated over? And that is this: we have properties that are zoned for, say, 100 apartment units. Well, if the developer meets some specific requirements, they could build 200 apartment units on that piece of property. And they don't have to build one single parking spot. I mean, it'd be silly if they didn't, but the law says they don't have to build parking spots.
Esther?
Right. It basically, there's a leadership within Sacramento that has only been addressing perhaps the metropolitan really, really high density places and saying, okay, everyone has to do this. And it just does not fit in North County, especially because we've never gotten the dollars for, it's really about transit oriented development. And we've never gotten the dollars to really get into public transportation for our citizens. We over 60%, like 64% of our workforce still travels by car. So what they're doing is really making things a lot worse for our citizens. Oceanside actually was very forward thinking in terms of densifying the downtown. That took time, right? And so we really did understand the RENA numbers, about RENA, right?
RENA.
Our regional housing requirements. And basically we have been on target, but for this, because now we're not able to build the more affordable units. It's all really unattainable units that we're forced to build.
Let me before we cut, because I think this is worth coming back to, but give me, out of fairness, for John and Keith and Esther, biggest opportunity and challenge for your 3 cities?
Well, opportunity is the continued redevelopment of our downtown. We've had about 15 years of major redevelopment that we're really proud of. If you've been to Vista lately, you know it's a success story that we're really proud of. Biggest challenge, we were just named by the California Policy Center 4th best in fiscal health. Carlsbad just barely beat us out, but we have built reserves that are historic in Vista, just delivered a $10 million surplus, keeping the council focused on fiscal restraint and not spending more than we take in so that we can do all the good things we want to do. That's the biggest challenge.
Okay, Keith.
Well, first of all, let me give kudos to Oceanside. The other day I spoke at a group and I talked a little bit about all the different cities and their successes. When I came to Oceanside, I made the crack about the pier was where we used to buy our drugs and Hill Street was where we found our hookers. I want to tell you, you've done an amazing job in transforming that downtown area. And in fact,
that's as a police officer, you mean?
Yeah, as a police
to
officer,
clarify.
I guess I should say I didn't buy my drugs there.
My jaw was dropping. I was wondering.
I was a police
can thank you
officer
later.
back
Yes,
then.
you were, yeah. And I was a deputy public defender.
That's
so.
right. So you guys have done a wonderful job. But all the cities, if you walk around these different cities, you're going to find some great improvements. Grand Avenue, the college, downtown Vista, what I just spoke about Oceanside. North County is a different place now.
It's on the rise.
We're the
We're doing
upside
it.
of San Diego.
There you go.
We really are.
Thank you. And Oceanside has been experiencing a renaissance. The downtown has been transformed. Main Street, Oceanside, we wanted to bring back people to the heart of the city. We've had partners visit Oceanside, and really the downtown has become a mecca for culinary arts and cultural district. We also have one of the 14 first cultural districts for
Kent, I said something
state of
nice about
California.
all of them. I forgot to say something good about
That's right.
Carlsbad.
That's right.
So let me tell you one of the big things we're going to be doing this year is Veterans Park. It's going to be a 93-acre park that's going to serve the entire community.
You might tell our viewers where that is.
It's going to be right off of Faraday and Cannon. Right now it's just a huge amount of open space. It's going to have a lot of activities, but the best part, we really strive on keeping a lot of open space in Carlsbad. We're about 38% open space, so we're going to keep about 50% of this park as open space.
Esther, the biggest challenge Oceanside faces looking forward?
The biggest challenge, of course, is dealing with Sacramento requirements. And we understand we have to build more housing, especially affordable, and that means transit-oriented development. So our biggest challenge is first voting on our updated a general plan, which includes identifying the corridors, major corridors to do that higher density. So for us, it's making sure that somehow we are going to be able to reach not only our RENA numbers, but also provide public transportation for our residents.
When will that general plan be presented to voters?
This year.
Okay, so this
very,
November?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Kind of a jump ball for all of you, and as we have continued this conversation. First, could somebody tell our viewers what RENA means, the Regional Housing
Needs assessment.
What is that? Where is it? And what is it in effect entail?
Well, the state of California gives a number to SANDAG that is for the entire county, and then SANDAG breaks up the housing requirement, which is the number of parcels that are zoned to build low-income housing. This is not a requirement to build low-income housing. It's a requirement to zone to allow it. And so each city is given an allotment, and each city basically has achieved X percentage. Vista is beyond 100% of the zoning that we're required to allow, but that doesn't mean that developers build that amount every year.
But isn't there
And it's up
a
to
goal
2029.
set for
The target.
2050, I believe it is, for the number of units?
The last one was 21 through 29, and countywide, it's 165,000 units.
Okay.
Countywide, it is astronomical. And, you know, the interesting thing, I mean, to Mayor Franklin's point, every city was given a number. That number in San Marcos in those years, 3,300 units. We can't build that quickly, and we don't actually build. It's private development.
Right.
And it falls within different categories. And, you know, the thing that I wanted to say a little bit earlier about RENA is you've got very low, low income, moderate, and then above moderate. In San Marcos, we build a lot because it naturally happens. We're a college town, and so, you know, people want to invest in it. But you also have the issue of affordable housing, and what does that do to a city in itself? So we have the second most in all of the cities plus the county. So 19 agencies. We have the most affordable housing, second most affordable housing at 10% of our total housing stock. And we're still not meeting our RENA numbers. But those 3,400 units of deed restricted pay zero property taxes. So our city, and we're happy to do it, but we're subsidizing every single law enforcement, filling the potholes, all of that because they're not contributing property tax.
Does that also affect school? The property
Absolutely.
tax?
Yes,
Your school
absolutely.
funding?
Oh, yeah.
The tax base, yeah.
What about Escondido and this RENA?
It says we need over 10,000 housing units in Escondido, but we have our own set of challenges with housing anyways, because we have a decades-old ballot measure that has restricted growth.
That would be Prop T.
Prop S.
S. Excuse me.
Yeah,
That's
Prop
right.
S. So, on one hand, everybody wants to throw density everywhere, but on the other hand, we have this proposition that really restricts any kind of growth.
How does it restrict growth?
So it says if your development requires an amendment to the general plan because of an increase in density, you have to go through the entire process, get approved by city council, and then it goes to a vote of the people. Well, and nobody's willing to do that.
There have been a few attempts over the years.
Yeah, it's been several years.
Has it been?
Yeah.
Okay.
What people don't know about all this subsidized housing is that a lot of it is available to people at 120% of the area median income. The AMI for San Diego County is $119,500 for just one person who lives alone. 120% of that is about $140,000. And you have to ask yourself, why would we subsidize housing for somebody making $140,000 as a single member household? And furthermore, when we give that person subsidy, we're injecting more money, chasing a limited number of housing units in the market, driving up the price of housing for literally everyone else. We have to ask ourselves why we're paying the burden and driving affordability up instead of down for people making that kind of money. It doesn't make sense.
With median housing prices across the corridor run, depending on which city you're talking about, run anywhere from, say, 900 to, I don't know, 1.3 million or so for a median house purchase. How in the world do people, first-time buyers, get into this market? Any thoughts?
It's a tough one. Back in 2016, we had an opportunity. A housing developer wanted to come in and rezone a piece of property. It was mixed use 4. And I'm not joking. It became so heated with our community where people own a home. They're like, we don't want those people coming into our community. And the developer had said, we're going to build these houses, start out at, and this is 2016, starting out at about right under $500,000. And I kid you not, my community was up in arms. And they were like, anyone that votes for this, we're going to make sure they don't ever get elected again. So there's a lot of political pressure too, but our folks don't understand all of what we are dealing with. So I'm gonna share a quick story. Right now, there is a density bonus, and the density bonus is honestly one of the worst programs that the state has actually put forward. So I have a piece of property that is in my city, 1.3 acres, and the developer wants to put 160 units with 40 parking spaces. And it's in the middle of single-family residential, mostly Hispanic neighborhood. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these people that live near it can't actually go up and move and all of that. It's multi-generational, but developers don't care about that when they're out of state, or out of the area, like the developer that's actually looking at this project. It has become so difficult. And if we try to say no and fight it, then what happens is our housing elements are opened by the state, by HCD, and then it's pretty much a free for all, and they can build on any piece of property, whether it's residential or not. And they can build these type of projects.
And basically, and we're talking about SB 79 when we talk about density bonus, basically there is a huge bias against home ownership. They don't,
Why would that
none
be?
None of that, because home ownership is in the way. Single family residential communities are in the way. So the vision for them is to replace our single family residential communities with high density residential.
And I think what we're looking at is
without parking, without any amenities, and they have unlimited waivers, right? So they don't have to underground utilities. They don't have to. They can go the maximum. They don't even have to really do walkable cities, which is what we really wanted. Has been part of our planning to ensure quality of life for all of our communities.
Jim Desmond is on the right track to restrict massive corporate ownership of rental housing. We need to focus, and what we've done in Vista is we have put development of attainable housing for sale first, ahead of rental housing. Look, Manhattan Island and Vista are the same size, both about 19 square miles, okay? But we have 3,000 people per square mile. They have 30,000. The dream of high density, high rise, and everybody's going to get where they're going on a subway, it's not happening here. It's not. You can't build the same kind of infrastructure with this population density that serves the East Coast. It's a great dream, but we can't afford it. What we need to be doing is building in the unincorporated parts of our county and allowing the community, the new developments, new subdivisions, like the ones that we live in, rather than making our kids buy a house in Temecula and drive an hour both ways, they should be able to go to Warner Springs, or they should be able to go to Alpine or Jacumba and buy a home there that's affordable, one that's attainable. My wife and I bought our first home 15 years ago in Vista. It was a condo, and we've since moved up to our own single family home. But let me tell you, it's made the single greatest difference in our financial lives. And I want young families to have the opportunity to buy attainable housing. It'll change their lives, and you can't rent until the day you retire. You'll never have a meaningful and decent retirement in our country or our state unless you own your home.
Doesn't that suggest a redefinition or reimagining of what a starter home is, and looking at townhouses and condominium units as the place for starter homes?
Well, absolutely. I call it the housing ladder. I actually sold new homes before I became a mom. You've got to have the lower income, so affordable housing in some cases does make sense. But then the housing ladder to the American dream. And I think when government comes in and tries to restrict whether you own a home, to Mayor Sanchez's point, it doesn't make any sense, and it's wrong. Government should be standing back and allowing the market to actually do what it needs to do. I think one of our biggest problems also in California is CEQA, and the fact that every single property project ends up getting some sort of lawsuit against it. That actually adds to the cost at the end of the day. And all of the things that we're doing, the mandates of this, so you have to put this in, you have to put that in, as far as, and it does make sense to put in green things. We do want to make sure that we are being good with the environment. However, not at the peril of we're going to put in mass, every single project has to have solar, for instance. Sometimes solar doesn't work. And wouldn't it be better for us if we actually put solar on projects that are already there, like commercial development, where you have flat roofs? You don't have as many obstacles as you would have in like a single family residential community.
Are those various mandates and restrictions and requirements for new building part of what you guys are talking about on this local control issue?
Well, actually, the governor did force a lot of the changes to CEQA and really changed the meaning of infill.
That was last year, right?
But we're just not really there yet. I don't think it's gone far enough.
Right. But for us, we've almost every city is built out, right? But there's always constant change within a city. For us, it really does apply to almost everything, except for the areas where I think we do need to slow down in, especially we have some rural areas that have an equestrian overlay. And we definitely need to do that CEQA study there, because we want to ensure a balanced community, which means mixed and ensuring that we have something for everyone. Should not just high density residential.
There's a battle on either side between are we going to grow out or are we going to grow up? Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you, if you look at New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, L.A., when you build up, you get exorbitant rental prices. When you build out, you get attainable housing. What we need, and what people don't know, is our County Board of Supervisors has adopted one of the most ridiculous interpretations of the state's vehicle miles traveled, or VMT policy. What this does is it says if you want to build 6 or more homes in an unincorporated part of the county that's outside your city, then you're going to have to get a plan, study the traffic, and you're going to have to remediate, and you're going to have to build hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure for trains and buses in the city that have very low ridership to pay for the greenhouse gas emissions that your new residents in your semi-rural development are going to live in. What this means is that it's become a functional moratorium on building housing in the unincorporated parts of our county. That is driving pressure to build up, which we don't want in our cities. So if we're going to not densify and go high-rise, high development in our cities, we've got to fight for new neighborhoods in the unincorporated communities, not force people to buy a home in Temecula.
Well, Keith, let me ask you this. Carlsbad has an extraordinary amount of open space. Is there pressure inside the planning and developers, thought leaders inside of Carlsbad that to squeeze that open space in order to accommodate new homes?
No, most of our open space is protected habitat. We have 3 lagoons in our city. That's all considered open space. A lot of our open space isn't buildable. what we're doing is dealing with the infill. And I'll give you some examples. Our downtown beach area, very, very old. Most of the homes probably built in the 30s and 40s. Nice big piece of property, a small single-story home. Grandma leaves it to the grandchildren, and then they tear it down and build a six-plex condo next to the other single-story homes. The state has made it to where we can't say no to that kind of development. So it's mostly infill, and it's ruining the character of our communities.
Does Escondido have a similar problem with its historical district?
I would say for the most part, actually, they're very supportive, but of growth around them, especially when we talk about like downtown revitalization, because it's right there. But for the most part, they're supportive, and I would say they don't like that, but it hasn't happened in our historic district yet.
Okay. It's clear, it seems to me clear, that new large economic development issues will drive both housing and transportation woes. The latest Sandag Regional Transportation Plan was adopted, I believe, in December or so.
Right.
How do you guys feel about what it had to say and what it wants?
It's a disaster, Kent. It calls for 2 tax increases. It plans to build a $5 billion tunnel underneath Del Mar to double track a train that nobody rides. They say if we double the number of trains, we'll double the ridership. It won't happen.
All right. Tell me about what are the 2 tax proposals?
The plan relies on a half-cent sales tax proposal in the city of San Diego and a 3/4-cent sales tax countywide. Kent, we've been paying on the Transnet proposal since 1988. We're going to pay on it for another 30 years. We've been promised in 2 different Transnet taxes that we would get rid of the stoplight at I-5 and 78. They haven't. We were promised a functional interchange at 78 and 15. It's still backed up for 30 minutes every day. We need functional improvements in North County that we've been promised time and time again. We've approved taxes to pay for them, and we've never gotten them.
Esther, do you know what Sandag is saying about the I-578?
Well, the I-578 there's some money that was set aside to do some studies, because a lot of things have changed in the interim years, especially air quality issues. But definitely it is something that is being studied to see what we could do beyond, say, a flyover. But I think that what we're trying to do is also look at things differently inside our cities, because as, for example, San Marcos grows, as City of Oceanside grows, we need microtransit. And I think that is where everyone is going, at least in Sandag, other than the metropolitan area, which still has to do those, bigger projects.
Define microtransit for our viewers.
Shuttles.
It's NCTD Plus that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. So we have it in San Marcos, and it is working well.
Yeah, we have GoSide.
Yeah, exactly. And 3 of us are on the board at Sandag, and that's Esther, Dane, and I. And when we actually were creating that plan, there was originally in the 21 plan, it was already in there, a 4-cent per mile tax that everyone in the county would have had to pay. We fought that, and it was removed from the 21 plan, and it's not in the 25 plan. That is a huge win for North County.
And that is the mileage usage tax that is
the county tax. So there is a state tax that they're working on, that they're trying to pass at the state level.
Same problem though, right?
But the county is not in the plan.
But this was for the county of San Diego, and it would never have paid for one bit of road improvement or maintenance. It would have been for other things.
And it's coming roaring back from the state legislature.
I understand that EVs, drivers do not pay gasoline tax.
The
they
gas
tend
tax.
to be heavier vehicles. They tend to wear out freeways and concrete underneath them. So what do you do about that?
You missed my point, though, Kent, and I'm sorry to correct you. There was none of that money for the road user driving fee in the county of San Diego would have actually paid for any maintenance or any installation of a road or a highway.
I'm not arguing for anything one way or the other. I'm asking a different question, and that is, you've got EV drivers that don't pay gasoline tax. You've got gasoline internal combustion engine drivers who do. Is there a problem here? Dane?
I would say yes, but the problem isn't that we're not being taxed enough.
Correct.
The problem is that the state is spending way too much money.
That's right. They need an efficiency department like we started in San Marcos. We mean business. This is what every single municipality should be doing. Being more efficient, finding out where they could save money internally so that they can actually improve the quality of life of their residents, because that's our job. We've got one job, and that's what it is. So when you look at, we actually brought that to Sandag. So there's internal controls at Sandag. I do believe it will get better over time. It doesn't happen overnight, but going in and improving our processes, I believe we will be able to actually start providing projects that we've promised the voters for years and years and years.
And being more transparent. Right?
Exactly. And proving up the transparency and showing them what we're doing.
Did you want to jump in on this EV gasoline internal combustion?
Well, it's not very equitable, is it? I mean, if you can't afford to live in the city that you work, you have to drive miles and miles. And why would someone who can't afford, number one, to be able to live in that city, have to pay more to be able to get to their job? So there needs to be, go back to the drawing board and figure this out.
Kent, we're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions in the state of California. Our municipalities are all building EV charging stations. We're still subsidizing partial costs for electric vehicles. You receive a reduced electric rate through SDG&E from the CPUC if you have an EV. Some people buy EV just to get the lower electric rate. So don't pretend that we're not subsidizing electric vehicles across the board. We are, to the tune of billions of dollars. The real question is, will they become viable on their own? Will consumers choose them? We put solar panels in, and I upgraded my panel to 200 amps so that we could have electric cars in the future, because it looks like we're all going to have an electric car in the future, maybe. I wanted to be ready for it, but consumers have got to make a choice. And I think our government's role should be to support consumer choice, not to tell consumers what to choose.
So I think
Keith?
Regressive tax. Our states keep saying that they're watching out for the lower income and the middle income. But when you charge per mile for a vehicle being driven, that's a regressive tax. That's going to hurt the housekeepers, the gardeners, all the people who least are able to afford all the miles they put on their vehicles. It's not going to, if I have to pay $100 a year, $200 a year more in mileage tax, it's not going to affect my life. So they're hurting the people who are the most vulnerable.
And as if we thought that you could create a tax. If you thought you could create a tax people hate more than the mileage tax, now they've come up with proposals at the county for a higher transfer tax, and they're even proposing a payroll tax at the county of San Diego. The number of taxes, I call it a blizzard of tax increase proposals. Voters are going to decline all of these increased proposals because they're being shown 6, 7, 8 proposals to raise taxes on everything from buying and selling a house, taking money out of their paycheck, to tracking them with a GPS tracker and charging them a nickel for every mile they drive. It's absurd, and voters are going to decline them, and they're looking for leaders who are tax fighters.
Okay. Keith, let me go back to you. Carlsbad has a reputation of having done a really good job with its economic development, with its business park areas, so on and so forth. What's on the horizon for Carlsbad in terms of economic development? And I ask that in part because economic development tends to mean new jobs, more demands on infrastructure, more demands on transportation and highways. What do you think?
Well, let me brag for a moment. We are the second largest generator of income. We're $18.5 billion a year from our businesses. We're second only to San Diego because they're so much bigger than us. We do go out of our way to make sure our business community is well cared for in Carlsbad. But I also want to brag a little bit about what we do for our small businesses in Carlsbad. 85% of the people in Carlsbad are employed by small businesses. When I say small, they're 10 employees or fewer. And we have now, and I'll give you a quick story of why we're going in the direction we're going. I grew up in Escondido, and I had a small business that had to do with stereos. And I was young, and I didn't understand the politics. I understood car stereos really well, but I didn't understand the process through Escondido's business licensing. But someone in Escondido gave me some mercy, held my hand through the whole process, and made it very easy. So what we're doing now in Carlsbad is we have 2 employees who, any small businesses who want to open in Carlsbad, we will hold their hand through the entire process and let them do what they do best, and that's run their business, and we'll help them do the rest.
Grand Avenue has a pretty good record of improvements and new businesses and things. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Grand Avenue Vision Plan was put together, I think, back in 2017, although like everything around the city, didn't have any money to go along with the plan until 2020 when the first phase was done. We just completed the second phase last year, and there's one more phase of construction that has widened all the sidewalks, put in outdoor dining, put in nice lighting. It's a totally different downtown now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go there on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, there's no available parking because it's so busy now. So it's been great.
I talk about my favorite, Cruising Grand.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very cool. Yeah.
The one of the other issues with regard to quality of life in our communities generally has always been the issue of crime and public safety generally. There is obviously nationwide a fair amount of controversy over the federal effort on deportation behavior of ICE and Border Patrol generally. What's the status of things in your city? Dane, do you want to?
You know, when this whole thing first started, the city of Escondido sent all 5 San Diego congressional representatives a letter begging them to do something about it. And it's unfortunate. We only got one response, and that individual blamed Donald Trump, and I didn't hear anything from the rest of them. So that's kind of what I tell my constituents right now. If you want to change this, you've got to go to those people who can change it.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump?
You know, I'd like to jump in on this. So I'm on the board at Sandag. I'm on the executive board as well. And right now, what is happening, there is an information database that has all crime statistics within the county. And what happened at our last board of directors meeting is some of our board members, and by the way, emergency or enforcement and removal, ERO of ICE, is what you see on television. We don't have any control of that. That is the federal government. Local government does not control federal or state law enforcement or any of that. So we have to worry about our communities. But what happened at the Sandag Board of Directors meeting is that we were at a point where there was going to be a vote taken to end all communication and contracts with Border Patrol and the Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, that is at the border today because of this knee-jerk reaction to the removal, which has zero information in, by the way, the ARGIS database has, and you know, Esther Sanchez and I were both sitting there going, what's going on here? She was a public defender. She understands how detrimental this would be to our county. But you've got people making decisions countywide that we should not be in that. There should be no political part of law enforcement and local control. We need to band together and make sure all the information that we have here in the county is available to our border, because if we're going to get rid of all of that, sever those ties, we will have a less secure border.
We are having a robust discussion about ARGIS.
Absolutely.
Number one, though, the bottom line is that there is no immigration-related status information is not within ARGIS.
For our viewers, explain what ARGIS is. They may not know
ARGIS is each jurisdiction's has information. Law enforcement agency has information that they collect during the regular course of their work, and then so ARGIS is a sharing of that information to be able to arrest someone, but it does not go above and beyond the area. And Sandag actually is basically monitors it or manages it,
oversees it. Yeah.
So
it's a database and mapping system generally.
For the region, yeah.
It is in complete compliance with SB 54.
That's right.
Let me ask
SB
a question
54.
with regard to recently the San Diego County Supervisors adopted a policy, the super sanctuary policy. We're almost out of time. Very quickly, Rebecca, what's your city's view generally, or your view generally, of the county supervisor's decision on super sanctuary?
Well, the interesting thing that happened is right after the county supervisors voted on a super sanctuary policy, the sheriff said, I'm going to be following SB 54. And that is where she is actually deciding what the supervisors are. They're not the boss of her. She runs independently. She's directly elected. She said, here's what's happening. I'm following SB 54, and I will not be following your direction. I don't know if you saw there was I think it was an iNewsSource article saying that the sheriff was not following the sanctuary policy of the county. That's because she said right after that December meeting in 2024, I will be following SB 54 because I am required to, and I will not be following that policy.
Thank you. John, let's talk about super sanctuary policy in your city vis-a-vis this issue of immigration control.
Well, super sanctuary policy is something the County Board of Supervisors voted on at the end of last year. And let's be really clear about what super sanctuary policy is, because it's different than just sanctuary. SB 54 is the state's sanctuary state law, which is a bad law that I oppose. Super sanctuary.
What does it say?
The state's sanctuary law does not protect serious felons. That's people who are convicted, not accused, convicted of murder, convicted of violent rape, convicted of child molestation. Now, this is not hypothetical, because last year the sheriff handed over 25 individuals from the San Diego County Jail who were convicted of these crimes to ICE, and they were deported. So the County Board of Supervisors super sanctuary policy wants to go beyond the sanctuary state law to protect individuals who are being released into ICE custody from the San Diego County Jail. Now, as was pointed out, the sheriff has refused so far because what was adopted by the Board of Supervisors is a resolution. But Kent, the board is being asked by the sheriff right now for $1 billion to build a new jail facility that the sheriff desperately needs in my city of Vista. We need to focus on building the resources the sheriff needs to do her job. It isn't the case that the board doesn't have a lever of power. They control the funding for the sheriff. So even though the sheriff has a constitutional office and she has her authorities, when we control the purse strings of the sheriff through the Board of Supervisors, the board's policies matter. We have got to have leaders that say in a clear voice, immigration enforcement, instead of happening in the street, should be happening at the sally port of our jails. People who are arrested for committing crimes should be handed over to ICE. We should be cooperating, not forcing ICE to go into the communities. If the enforcement happened there, John, it'd be a different story.
Yeah. Esther, you are a former public defender.
Yes.
Tell us your thoughts on what this is about.
Thank you. That's not what SB 54 says. SB 54 basically says that local law enforcement is not to cooperate or help in any way with respect to immigration enforcement, right? Everything else, other than, because the feds do more than just immigration enforcement. Now, there are exceptions to that, and that is the more serious crimes, right? So there would be like a hold placed on that, on those folks in the jail, but they're for the more serious crimes that they've been convicted of.
Murder, for instance.
Yes, for example. Yeah. So what is happening in Oceanside is that our police department and our police chief is following SB 54. And in fact, the police department does not ever collect information regarding immigration status. So that is not, and as you know, immigration status is not a crime. It's a civil situation. It's not a crime. So if you are undocumented, and you may be in different stages, you may be applying because you married a U.S. citizen and you are in the process of becoming a permanent resident and then later a U.S. citizen. What is happening now with the feds is, and I hope that what will happen in D.C., because right now they seem to be talking about putting guardrails on ICE, especially since two U.S. citizens were killed in Minneapolis, and and this was in front of us, in front of the whole public, right? So they're finally going to be doing investigations, but bottom line for us here in Oceanside, we are not assisting with, we don't do deportations.
Understand.
City of Oceanside does not do that.
Understand.
So
Does the presence of ICE or Border Patrol or this entire controversy affect City of Carlsbad? You're a retired police officer.
It does. It's very complicated. It's a moving target. We have a divided community. It has definitely divided all of our communities. But I'll tell you just my own opinion.
Okay.
And it's when it was originally discussed that it would be addressing gang members and violent people, and not just people being released from jail for murder or violent rape.
Talk about SB 54.
Or just even the ICE involvement.
Okay.
There's plenty of Salvadorian gang members in Los Angeles who need to be taken off our streets. They're preying on the residents. And that was my original understanding of what this was going to be, that ICE was going to spend their time getting violent, dangerous people off the streets. Somehow it morphed into something different.
yeah,
But the same way earlier we were all complaining that about the state of California running our cities, I'm being very careful not to be critical of ICE because I don't run them. We just had, our police chief did a wonderful, Christy Calderwood's our police chief, did a wonderful job at our last council meeting explaining all of the ins and outs and what the police department can and can't do and what they do and don't do. And pretty much she was asked a few times some specific questions. She says, I do what the law says. I will not break the law. And if anybody wants to see that, it was last week's city council meeting. It was probably a 20-minute presentation. And it didn't matter which side of the ICE controversy you're on, every person complimented her and thought she did a wonderful job explaining it.
Dane, what's the status of things in Escondido?
You know what? We follow the state law. Our police officers do not coordinate with them or participate in any immigration enforcement. And, you kind of asked about our opinion at the beginning of that. I think anybody who has to wake up and see men in camo with long guns walking through their neighborhoods, I think that's going to scare anybody, regardless. And I'm ready for it to be wrapped up as soon as possible and sort of return back to normal.
Okay. John, any thoughts?
The conflict shouldn't be happening in the streets of our cities. The enforcement action should be happening at the back door of a jail when individuals who are here unlawfully commit a crime or come into contact with law enforcement. At that time, that's the appropriate place. And before sanctuary policies were adopted, that is where immigration enforcement was happening. After sanctuary policies, the effort to enforce the law has gone on the streets. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton all said in their State of the Union addresses and speeches to the nation that they believe that criminals and people who are unlawfully present should be removed. There's no change to the law. What we're looking for is the even and consistent application of the law, and we're looking for there should be a partnership to enforce all of the laws all of the time from every level, local, state, and federal.
Kent, just to say this, okay, 70% of those that are being detained and for deportation have not committed a crime.
Okay. As I want to move on and ask you, is there a topic of great interest to the 78 corridor mayors and cities that we have not touched on, that I, through my negligence, haven't raised?
Well, we covered quite a bit.
As you look forward to San Marcos, what's the big opportunity for you?
Well, the exciting thing is we just launched a Blue Zone study that is going to be done in about 6 months. And that takes everything into account that we're doing, building that downtown right there at North City, which we approved, by the way, in 2009, seeing that finally come to fruition. It's an economic driver, providing housing and density where it belongs, right adjacent to the university. Really seeing that all come together, health, wellness, longevity, and a good high quality of life, which is what our job is.
And those things that you just enumerated are the Blue Zone goals.
They are, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me go around with some quick questions to try and wrap it up. John, pick your favorite place to direct a visitor to the City of Vista.
Well,
Moonlight Amphitheater,
you
the
hit it right
Wave,
there.
or the Antique Tractor Museum?
Well, I hear you might be a fan of the Antique Tractor and Steam Engine Museum. It is a gem of Vista. I have to confess, it's actually county property right outside the city limits, but we're very proud of it, and we consider ourselves partners. But of course, if you haven't been to the cultural gem that our Moonlight Amphitheater is, seen a Broadway performance there, I encourage you, you've got to go check it out. You'll have a great time with your family under the stars.
Okay. Keith, how can
No, ask me the same question. I'm prepared for it.
How is it possible for the city of Carlsbad to have as many Michelin chef restaurants as it currently has? Are there more on the way?
I'll tell you that I haven't been to any of those restaurants. And I'll tell you personally, I prefer plain spaghetti with no sauce on it. So I'm not the guy to ask about fancy food, but I'm begging you to ask me the question you just asked John. I recently got interviewed by a television station, and the joke was they asked, where should we visit if we're from out of town? I had to pull my list out. The list was this long. Oceanside's getting there. The list was this long, everything from Legoland to 7 miles of beach. I'm going to miss so many. Strawberry fields, flower fields, our hotels. With so many places I could send people. It was just beautiful in Carlsbad.
And who has the best spaghetti al olio in Carlsbad?
There you go.
Without a doubt.
All right.
Vigilucci's.
Esther, the entertainment.
The pier.
The pier is great.
The pier, the harbor, the mission.
What I wanted to know from you is the lineup of sports and entertainment events at the new Front Wave Arena is pretty remarkable and eye-opening. What's your favorite of all those coming?
Well, I didn't think that it would be possible, but indoor football is pretty darn exciting. I invite you to come for the season.
And
that
what's
will
the
be
name
starting
of the
in March.
Oceanside team?
Oceanside Bombers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One kind of related question. The pastry shop is moving, or is out, I think, of the Top Gun house. What's going to go in there? Any ideas?
Oh, I would love to have ice cream in there. Because right there at the beach, what do you want after you've been out, or even once you get there? Hey, some ice cream. So I'm hoping that will happen.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a loaded question, Dane.
All right.
Okay, what was your favorite chocolate of this weekend's chocolate festival?
I did not make it to the chocolate festival.
What did you do instead?
I spent the day with Love Esco at Love Esco Day doing service projects all day.
All right. Thank you very much. This concludes this episode of the North County Roundtable. I'd like to thank Oceanside Mayor Esther Sanchez, Carlsbad Mayor Keith Blackburn, Vista Mayor John Franklin, San Marcos Mayor Rebecca Jones, and Escondido Mayor Dane White for joining us today.
Providing a continental voice for the North County community, KOCT Television, the Oceanside Channel.